It's one of those films that's like an urban legend you hear so much about, and then you see it and you're like, whatever they were smoking in those Soviet days, I need some of that. Hi, my name's Akinola Davies. I'm here with MUBI and Posteritati to talk about some of my favorite posters. I don't know what to say about this film other than it's just completely rock and roll. I love how sort of harrowing the eyes of this character look, and I think if you get to watch the film, you realize why. It's basically, I won't ruin the film for anyone because I think everyone should see it, but it's basically the most harrowing depiction of the psychology of war on a child, specifically, on a child soldier. In Africa, we've had a lot of child soldiers, so especially in like Sierra Leone and across the continent. So I think, yeah, having seen this film, there's so much imagination put into this film, which I think maybe speaks to My Father's Shadow a little bit because it's from the perspective of children as well. But this in a war is completely like horrific. But what I do really like about it, and I'm not going to put you off, but of seeing it is it really plays a lot with sound. It plays a lot with the idea of sound. I remember speaking to Mika Levi, incredible composer, about this film, about how there's a scene in the film where it sounds like a bomb is falling, and at the moment of impact, there's like a splash of water. And it's just those like really brave choices in the film that I think make it super, super incredible. At the stage where you encounter the sort of protagonist, he's been through a lot, and I think over the course of the film, you can see it visually in his face, how he's like disintegrating and disintegrating and disintegrating. So yeah, another thing it shares with My Father's Shadow, I guess. It's a triumph as a film, probably like the best anti-war film, I think we were just saying, but yeah, it's pretty insane, like just for so many reasons. I think even the idea of how like confronting it is, because I think at times during the film, the protagonist just like stares down the barrel of the camera all the time. And I think there's something really powerful about this idea of like having a child confront the camera, because they're in a war zone, really, and it's kind of imploring the audience's participation. For my next poster, I have to talk about someone who I think is probably a titan of filmmaking and maybe not as celebrated as I feel she should be, Lily Alviles. I was really fortunate enough to go on a hunt to try and find Lily Alviles because that's how much that film spoke to me. And I met her in Mexico City, and she was kind enough to have lunch and like take me to her studio where she works. This film, Chambermaid, I saw this after I saw Totem. I sort of went back to watch her stuff. And it's an incredible film. You can see here, editor Omar Guzman. He's the editor of My Father's Shadow, my debut feature as well. Having seen his work in Totem, I sort of had to find him. It took me 6 months to get hold of him because he's sort of a mad scientist that sleeps under an editing table. And the first time I spoke to him on Zoom, he was in Mexico City and there was an earthquake. And I think that pretty much was the reason why I worked with him, other than the fact he's a super talented editor as well. But this film, Chambermaid, is incredible because I actually realized it's in conversation with My Father's Shadow. It's about a working mother who has to leave home and leave her child in the care of someone in her community because she has to go and tender to sort of rich families in this sort of like fancy hotel. And in the time she's not working, she's like studying to improve herself and her education. And I think that just goes to show that like loads of working class communities are sort of forced to make that choice of sacrifice, and what they sacrifice is potentially a lot of like time and relationship with their kids, which is quite a big theme in My Father's Shadow. I would love to be like a production runner on this film and just like watching people set up shots and how it happened. But obviously I would need a time machine for that. And actually I'm Yoruba, so it's possible, anything's possible. But it's a feat, like I don't know how to describe it other than the fact it's like super harrowing. I just remember watching it and just thinking it's just so beautiful. I must have watched it countless times. But there's like some shots in this film that are completely insane. Like tracking shots, which if you watch closely enough like I have and you pause it, you'll be able to see like how they did it. I'm not gonna blow up their spot, but there's one shot where the camera is high up and then it goes down through this band playing and lands at like a swimming pool, or lands on the side of a building and tracks across to a swimming pool and then follows this lady to a swimming pool and then enters the water. It's just like, I don't even know how they did it in the period this film was made. I don't even know when it was made, but it's so long ago that even now it would be a completely like incredible technical feat of a shot. There's another shot, I think it's like the funeral shot where this guy's been martyred, and it's just like traveling through the streets of Cuba, and it's like going into a room where people are like rolling cigars and goes into the next room and goes into the next room, and it's just incredible. It's like a magnum opus of a film. There's just so much of Nigeria like reflected in Cuba. It was one of the first times I'd seen my culture like performed outside of the context of being Nigerian. Like I think 70% of the island practice what's called Santeria, which is like a form of like Yoruba spirituality, sort of mixed in through slavery into Catholicism. Our sort of indigenous belief system was known as animist, which is basically a belief that all forms of nature are sort of revered and represent like a deity. And what's happened in Santeria is through slavery, a lot of practitioners had to practice sort of like underground. And basically what would happen is they would basically, perform what was called perform like Ifa, but under Catholicism. And then over the years and years, they've become a lot more like intermeshed or whatever. Prior to going to Cuba, I was told that a lot of understanding of that like spirituality was like really like demonic and satanic and stuff like that. But having gone to Cuba, it was the first time I'd seen my culture like performed in a way that actually felt very normal to me and made me like question a lot of the politics behind the demonization of sort of black spirituality. Yeah, Cuba is an incredible place. It's like no other place. It's an anecdote on what colonization does to a place and how the people in that place tend to suffer the most. And I sort of stan anyone who makes a film about like cultures that are like super poignant and important. It's a complete masterpiece for sure. Corrida, he's my favorite director. I know I say that a lot, but he genuinely is my favorite director. I remember watching this film and just being so enamored with it because I think it just catches you by surprise in so many ways. I think the child performances are exceptional in it. I fell in love with Sakura Ando. I think she's just magnificent. There's two scenes in it which I just think are absolutely incredible. There's a scene where her co-worker catches her out and kind of like effectively like blackmails her to sort of quit. And just her performance in that is just so good. And then the scene where she's been interrogated at the end of the film and you can just see the tears like coming, but she doesn't break in the interrogation room. I just thought, wow, that I just love her as an actress and I would love to work with her one day. After this moment in the film, everything starts to go wrong. Yeah, it's that point in the film where like equilibrium of everything that's happened starts to change. I think the only person who isn't in that shot is the grandma, whose actually perspective I think we're looking from because she's old and sat on the beach. And I think it's kind of like the last moment in the film where there's like complete joy in amongst this really dysfunctional family. I think it also gave me a completely eye-opening perspective of Japan, that maybe like this idea of what we think of Japan as being like really sanitized, that there is the working class and there is like people below that living and existing as well, and maybe their stories hadn't been told as much, and maybe we should consider that the sanitized view we get of Japan isn't all there is to that society. It reminds me of like the Black Panther Party posters. Yeah, shouts to Emory Douglas. There's something about them that like fits the sort of language, and this poster feels somewhat in that canon as well. And I really love it because I remember my mentor is an incredible director called Romain Gavras, and Roman was like, you have to watch Battle of Algiers, it's like real rock and roll, because we were speaking about a film idea. And I remember watching this and I was just like, what the hell? Really, really beautiful film. It's a film that deals with colonization and people sort of like wanting to reclaim, I guess, their sort of land and their sort of territory. And it's a really, yeah, it's just like a really political film. And there is a scene, oh my God, there is a scene in it, I've just remembered, where I think someone is praying, or there's like a light and a candle in the window, and it kind of like zooms out and shows this whole neighborhood. And I made a music video for a band called Kokoroko. We shot in the largest floating slum in Africa. It's called the Venice of Africa, Makoko, which now has been sort of partially demolished. But a shot from this film was like a huge reference for that. And in my video, it's just like loads of kids in boats with lanterns and candles. And that's literally from the Battle of Algiers. This poster you have here is a personal favorite of mine because it's the one from my debut feature, My Father's Shadow. It's made by an incredible local Ghanaian artist called Jasper Annam. He's like a legend in sort of the African poster community. Thanks for watching my picks. My debut film, My Father's Shadow, is now streaming on MUBI. Please support independent cinema.